The Head That Talked, Montreal, Quebec. Jean St. Pierre was a court clerk who came to New France in the early 1640s and settled in Montreal. There he married a woman named Marthe Godet, and the couple had 2 children. Other details of his life are contained in surviving records that were kept at the time, but none is as strange as the account of what happened after he died in 1657 at the hands of some Oneida warriors. St. Pierre and a servant were helping his father-in-law build a new house when the war party attacked. All 3 men were killed, but St. Pierre was also decapitated. With his head as a trophy, the braves beat a quick retreat. None other than the famed head and sainted Marguerite Bourgeois, New France's first schoolteacher, would be among those who recounted what happened next. As the warriors moved deeper into the forest, St. Pierre's head began to speak. Not only did it talk, but it spoke in an Iroquois language that St. Pierre didn't know when he was alive. Even after the horrified Oneidas buried the vile head, they kept hearing St. Pierre's voice warning them of their impending defeat by the French. Bourgeois and other witnesses would later report that Iroquois braves brought back to them the tale of St. Pierre's talking head. Spellbinder, Montreal, Quebec. Church officials in New France seemed to have no problem in the 1650s believing that a dead talking head could speak of the impending defeat of the Iroquois at the hands of the French. But nearly 100 years later, in 1742, they had serious concerns about what a very much alive soldier said when he tried to cast a spell to make the face of a thief appear. Francois Charles Harvard de Beaufort, a soldier from France stationed in Montreal, was always on the lookout for ways to make some extra money. For a small fee, he would impress folks with his card tricks and his knife handling skills. He had also built a reputation as a sorcerer, able to cast magic spells, a practice that Catholic bishops and priests in New France associated with witchcraft and saw as the work of the devil. But one fateful night in 1742, Harvard de Beaufort's magic powers appeared to have abandoned him. A Montreal shoemaker named Charles Robideau had been robbed of 300 livres, worth several $1,000s these days, and the thief was still at large. Could it have been someone he knew? Desperate to recover his money, Robideau turned to the young soldier for help. For a fee, Harvard de Beaufort said he would expose the thief's identity by casting a spell to make the culprit's face appear in a mirror. On June 28, 1742, the sorcerer showed up at Robideau's house. He asked for a table on which he placed candles, a Catholic prayer book, olive oil, gunpowder, and a mirror. Over the next hour or so, he read passages from the prayer book in Latin, burned bits of paper in the candle flames, and smeared oil and powder on the mirror in an attempt to conjure up the face of the culprit. The pops, flames, and incantations awed everyone present, but they didn't produce a vision of the thief. In a last-ditch effort to expose the criminal, perhaps among those gathered in Robideau's parlor, Harvard de Beaufort picked up a nearby crucifix, dabbed it with oil, exposed it to the flames, and read more sacred prayers aloud. Nothing. Try as he might, he could weave no terrifying magic spell that night. But the punishment he received for the methods he used was pretty horrific. The next day, when someone reported that what he had done, Harvard de Beaufort was arrested and tossed into jail, charged with profaning or disgracefully insulting the words of the Holy Scripture and with inappropriate and evil use of a holy object, the crucifix. In August, after a long trial, Harvard de Beaufort was found guilty of these crimes. He was banished from New France and sentenced to 3 years of slave labor in the galleys of the ships belonging to the King of France. But before he was forced aboard to begin serving his sentence, he had to appear in front of the parish church in Montreal in nothing but a long shirt, carrying a heavy lighted candle and wearing a sign that read, "Profaner of Holy Things." Then he was tied to a wooden frame, dragged from one city crossroad to another, and whipped in front of jeering crowds. An evening of sorcery had terrifying consequences, ones that Harvard de Beaufort could never have imagined. Powerless to save himself, even with magic, he was deported back to France in the autumn of 1742 and was never heard from again.